Good morning, lady. Let's join the table. And I know today a lot of people actually having sick. They are being sick or they are having sick kids. So we might not have everyone today will be here too. Okay. Let's start us with a prayer. Let's bow our head and close our eye. Dear God, as we are entering the season of Thanksgiving, we thank you for your unconditional love and the abundant blessings. You fill our day with joy and wipe our tears when we were in the valley of the shadow. Your rock comfort us, and your goodness and mercy will always follow us all the day of our life. Thank you for all the moms who are part of the Mothers Together family. We are grateful that we can come together, support one another, and strengthen our relationship with you, Lord. Let us become the light of this world and bring love and peace to the people that you have put into our life. And thank you for all the school buses that we have gathered today. May the little one who will be receiving it, they can feel the love of Jesus. And they will also open their heart to accept the love of Jesus too. And we pray over Heidi. May her word to bring us more understanding the importance of rest. You have created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day, you take the whole day to rest. Let us rest in your word, and let us enjoy the time being with you. We love you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Okay. Okay, this way. Okay, so we just want to thank you for each of you for bringing back all the shoes box, and I'm pretty sure when the little one opened the box, they will be overjoyed with They will be overjoyed to see all the gift inside. So thank you for making all this donation and making the children know that no matter where they at, Jesus always there for them. So thank you for that. And today, actually, in the season of Thanksgiving, we are collecting donations for Mothers Together ministry. So there is, 4 different ways that you can actually make the donation. So we will have a basket in the back that you can put cash in. You can write a check, or you can go to the CPC website and you can just make a donation. Just make sure on the notes part you can put Mothers Together, or you can by scanning the QR code on the screen, or there should be also one is on the table too. So, looking at all these great picture that we have. Because of your donation, we'll be able to providing all the food, providing all the surprise decoration and all the event to make mom know that they're not alone. We have a community to support them, and Jesus loved them too. That worked. Okay, so we're still looking for a communication coordinator to help us to write the Mothers Together highlight and also like story on the social media. So if you or you know anyone that have the heart of serving and ability to communicate effectively or like keep people informed on what's going on, we would like you to join our leadership team. Or we also want your prayer to pray that God will bring us the right person and help us to bring more moms to know about what is Mothers Together, and they can benefit from this ministry too. Yeah. Okay. So today we're going to, very happy to have Heidi over to join us to talk about deep dive into toddler sleep. So I remember in the past when I were actually one of the audience, like, that's not for me because I don't have toddler. All my kids are all grown up, elementary school. But actually, after at the top, it's actually benefit me. Actually, remind me that I need to sleep as a mom, and I need to create a good sleeping habit that don't look at my phone before going to bed. So hopefully, this talk will actually give you some insight as a mom and for your kids, how to really, I think we need to really sleep so we rest, so we can refresh our body and continue for the next day. So tell you a little bit about Heidi, that she is a certified baby and toddler sleep coach, and her office is located at Lovens. And yesterday I was looking at it, and she actually have free 15-minute consultation. Yeah, so if you need her, you can just go to her website and contact her. And she has been over 20 years to dedicate her career to caring for baby, young children, and their family. And with her experience as a sleep coach and happiest baby on the block educator, she has educated so many sleepless parents like me and caregiver the importance of sleep and the key of how to fall asleep and stay asleep. So don't fall asleep yet. So enjoy your cup of coffee, and we will welcome Heidi over on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I think that might, yeah. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me back to discuss sleep again, and we're going to talk a little bit more about toddler sleep. And just like she shared, there might be some things that aren't necessarily important to you if you don't have toddlers or your baby's younger or you've outgrown that age. But I always feel like information comes into your life when you need it. Maybe you're going to pass by somebody else who is having struggles, and you share with them a little tip about sleep that helps them get more sleep. Like she shared, I am a certified baby and toddler sleep coach, so I work with children 0 to 6 years of age. Does it sound okay? Yeah, okay. And the oldest child I've worked with so far was 6, and he had never slept through the night, ever, not one night. The mom came to me just so hopeless, and after 2 weeks working together, her son was sleeping through the night. So we've since become really good friends. She's our family photographer, and she talks to her clients, her newborn clients, about how important sleep is. And I just like to share this because it's really never too late to focus on sleep and to prioritize sleep and get better sleep. I also am certified to work with families created through foster and adoption. So mostly that means working on implementing and teaching sleep really gently and making sure that parents have a support and a bond with their child before they start working on anything else, because that secure attachment is really the most important thing that we can share with our child. And I also am certified in pediatric parasomnia, so I'm going to be talking about that too. I am also a Western Regional Director for the Association of Professional Sleep Consultants. So what this is just a really big group of sleep coaches that get together, and we talk about how we can support each other. We talk about really difficult clients and cases. And right now we're actually working on regulating requirements for sleep coaches, because there isn't really anything out there right now. Anybody can say they're a sleep coach. Anybody can help another family and share misinformation. So there's a lot of conflicting information out there. So we're trying to work on everybody being certified and taking yearly courses and being recertified so that the information that's out there is really impactful for parents and is the right information out there. I'm also a mom to my 6-year-old son, and my husband's a firefighter. So I think that that's really important to share, because he used to come home just exhausted after 2-3 nights of no sleep or disrupted sleep, just feeling out of sorts, coming home and napping all day and then not sleeping at night. And I think that that's a big place where I started to prioritize our sleep even before we had our son. And then definitely once we had him, really prioritizing sleep even more, and just feeling like sleep was really important to our family and something that I wanted to share with others. Let's see, there we go. So why is sleep important? Sleep is important because it's essential. It's essential for health and growth, development, and our own well-being. I'm going to share in some slides in a little bit about how our sleep was disrupted this past year, and just how it took a toll on my health and my well-being, and how I felt like I kind of went into a shell because I was so exhausted and couldn't really see it until I was on the other side. According to the National Foundation of Sleep, sleep is especially important for children as it directly impacts mental and physical development. During sleep During deep sleep states of REM, blood supply to the muscles is increased, energy is restored, tissue growth and repair occur, and important hormones are released for growth and development. So sleep impacts us directly. If we have a poor night of sleep, we usually see it that very next day. We see it in toddlers, especially with meltdowns, right? If they wake up after a rough night, they're having meltdowns and tantrums first thing in the morning. If they have a poor nap, we're seeing it throughout the day. So really making sure that we prioritize sleep so that it can help us with our overall, daily impact. So sleep needs drastically change from the time that we have a newborn until the toddler ages. So it changes from overnight sleep, how much they need, to daytime sleep. So you might have a toddler who is sleeping 3 hours and all of a sudden overnight they only need half of that, or all of a sudden they're dropping nap completely. And that's a really big range from 0 to 3 hours of daytime sleep, right? So making sure that we're focusing on what the child's needs are, and really, am I on the right side? Yeah, no, sorry. It's actually not changing. Yeah, there we go. So working on gentle and supportive and consistent methods. So I always like to share that if there's methods out there that don't feel right to you when you hear about them, when you're learning them, if you're working with a sleep coach, or if a friend is telling you, we used Cry It Out, it was great, and you're learning about it and it doesn't feel comfortable for you, then it's probably not the method that you're going to be able to follow through with for nights to come, right? You may be able to stick it out for one night and then the next night you give up on it because it's just too hard. It doesn't feel right. So it's really important to me to make sure that parents and caregivers feel like they're finding a method that they feel confident with, that they feel like they can reinforce and help their child to sleep. So really there's only a handful of sleep training methods out there. I'm not recreating the wheel. I'm not making up my own. But what I like to do is I like to combine them and create something custom for each person that I work with. So one method that might have worked for my son doesn't mean that it's going to work for your child. But really kind of starting at a beginning point and then seeing how it works and making changes as we go. So the 5 sleep methods are phasing out, which is kind of doing less and less of what you've been doing every night, picking up and putting down, controlled cry. So a controlled cry can be a gentle 3-minute cry, it can be a 5-minute cry, or it could be 5, 10, 15, and kind of laddering up and adjusting as you go. The sleep shuffle or chair method, and then Cry It Out. So the methods that I use daily are the first 4. So I never use Cry It Out, and I explain that to people because I never felt comfortable with it for myself. I don't feel comfortable using that for my child, so I don't feel comfortable asking another parent to use that, or going into somebody's home, right? Like I often go in and I'm working with them, and if I'm standing there talking to the parent and their baby is just crying hysterical, that makes me feel really uncomfortable, so I know it's got to make the parent feel really uncomfortable too. So making sure that we're finding methods that you feel you can follow through with. Specifically for toddlers, the method that I was going to explain to everybody and talk about today is the sleep shuffle or the chair method. And so what this is at bedtime or leading up to bedtime, especially with toddlers, you can talk to them about it. You can share with them, like, tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. Mommy's going to get this chair and I'm going to sit right by your crib or right by your bed, and I'm going to sit there until you fall asleep. And you're helping them feel like prepared for the night and they know what to expect. And you can include them in it. You can say, do you think that mommy should get the dining room chair? Do you think I should use the desk chair? Will you help me pick this chair? And you bring it into the room and you set it right next to the bed. And it's really important. You don't want to use the glider or the rocking chair that you've been hanging out with and sitting with your child in, because that can be confusing. You want something totally different that isn't familiar to them to sit in with you. And what you're going to do is you're going to sit there in that chair with them. You're going to support them. So night 1, I always like to say, hold hands, pat their back, briefly talk to them. Mommy's here. I'm going to sit here until you fall asleep. Reassure them until they fall asleep. And then you leave the room. If they have nighttime wake up, same thing. You're going to return to that chair. You're going to sit there with them and help them, support them to go to sleep. So some children, it can be a little bit overstimulating if you're right there in the room with them. You can tell that they're bouncing up and down. You can say to them, mommy really wants to sit here, but if you can't lay down in your bed, I'm gonna have to leave, right? And you're letting them have that choice of, okay, well, I might keep bouncing up and down until I learn that I don't want mommy to leave 5 times. I want her right here, right? And so you're kind of changing the cycle of how you're handling that. And then each night, really, you're just working your way out. So night 1, you're right there at the crib or the bed. And then the second night, you're about an arm's distance away. The third night, you're another arm's distance away. And you're moving your way out of the room to the doorway. So along with this method, I really like to use excuses. So, you're sitting there, maybe night 1 or 2, oh, mommy forgot to feed the dog. I will be right back. And you pop out of the room. And if your child gets up really quickly and runs after you, then return to the room really quickly before they can get out of bed and say, good job. I'm so proud of you for staying in bed. See, mommy always comes back. And I really like to focus on the positive, focus on reinforcing the good behaviors versus you didn't stay in bed, because that positivity can go a long way, especially at nighttime and bedtime. So really working on those excuses, avoiding things like mommy's going to get a drink of water because toddler's going to want to go with you, or mommy is going to the bathroom, right? Because then it's going to be a whole scene of them having to go to the bathroom too. So, either making excuses that are kind of boring for them that they don't want to be involved in, or you can just say, mommy will be right back, right? And each night you can lengthen that. So maybe night 1, you're only leaving for 10-second bursts. And then night 2, you're leaving for 30 seconds at a time. And then next thing you know, you've been gone for 10 minutes. And in that time that you're gone and that your child's patiently waiting for you and knowing that you always come back is actually the time that they fall asleep because they feel secure. They feel like you've spent this time with them. They're patiently waiting. It is bedtime. We know they're tired. And ideally, they're falling asleep in that time that you're not there. Because the important thing for all children, especially toddlers, is the way that they fall asleep at night is the way that they're going to fall back to sleep throughout the night. So we all have nighttime wake-ups. Sometimes we notice them. Sometimes we don't notice them. Sometimes you just roll over in a light state of sleep. And so same for toddlers. They're waking up all night long, and if they fall asleep in your arms or if they fall asleep and you're in their bed with them and they wake up and you're not there, it can be a little bit startling. Like, wait a second, where are mom and dad, right? Or even explain it like if you're laying on the couch and you fall asleep watching TV and you wake up in your bed, you're going to wake up more because you're going to think like, okay, how did I get here, right? So it's the same for kids. So really helping them to fall asleep independently at bedtime to sleep for the rest of the night. Offering that positive reinforcement, mommy always comes back, mommy's here, good job. And then you can even add to that with reward charts. So you can use a sticker chart that they get a sticker first thing in the morning, or, they could get 3 stickers in a row and they get something really special that next day. But it's really important that they get that reward right away. You don't want to say, okay, in a week from now, I'll take you to the zoo on the weekend, right? But it's something that you can offer them early in the morning. It's a pancake breakfast. It's, mommy taking you for hot chocolate, or daddy gets to drive you to school today. Something that they can look forward to, something that's different, but that's really immediate so that they can feel proud of themselves too. We're wanting to set really firm but realistic expectations. So is your toddler sleeping until 4 in the afternoon, but you want a 7 o'clock bedtime? That's not realistic because they haven't had enough awake time. So making sure that we as adults are creating those realistic expectations that we're asking of our child, making sure that we're talking to them about it, including them in decision making. Do you want to wear these pajamas or those? Not opening up their drawer and letting them pick whatever they want, but offering them 2 things to choose from so that they feel like they're in control. Ultimately, toddlers want to feel like they're in control. They want to feel like they're in charge. They don't want to feel like you're telling them what to do. So saying, you get to pick which one do you want, can really be helpful so that you're not having that power struggle, especially at bedtime. And then offering really a lot of one-on-one time. So obviously throughout the day and when you have that time with your child, but leading up to bedtime can be really important too. Just that you're filling their bucket. You're having that time together. You're setting aside 15 extra minutes where we put our phones down and we play with them in their room. That could be puzzles or reading books, playing a game on the floor, being in their sleep environment can be helpful as part of your routine. So it's not all of a sudden, okay, it's time to go to bed, let's go into your room, and you have a little power struggle where they don't want to be in their room, right? They're pushing back that I'm not tired, I don't want to go to sleep. But if you're already in the room and you're focusing on that one-on-one time, it's a little bit easier of a transition to now just go to bed. Let's see. There we go, dropping the nap. So this is a big one in the toddler years when sleep is changing, their needs are changing, when we have that last official sleep regression at 2. And to remind everyone about sleep regressions, basically it's when your child is hitting a developmental milestone, when they're learning how to roll, when they're learning how to walk, when they're talking, using fine motor skills. So at 2 is a really big one. And the most common thing that I see here is a child will refuse nap. So maybe it's a week of refusing nap, maybe it's 2. I just saw a lot of head nodding, yeah. But it's a really common age where usually children are too young to go the full day from morning until night without sleep, but it's really common that they push back for a little bit of time. So I like to share that, we want to give it at least 2 weeks of working through this sleep regression, making sure that that's what it is before dropping that nap. So you're still offering the nap every single day. You're still really consistent with what you're doing. You might have to offer an earlier bedtime to accommodate less sleep during the day. But I really like to push for naps until children are at least 3, maybe even 4, because developmentally they're not ready for that big wake window. Signs that your child is ready for that. So the age is a big one, trying to push to closer to 3, making sure that you're giving them a realistic nap time so that you're not offering it too early in the morning or too late. We're looking at between 5 to 6 hours of a wake window for toddlers. So from the time your child wakes in the morning until nap, and then between nap and bedtime. So if it's, you're offering them a 90-minute nap and it takes them 75 minutes to fall asleep, that's a good sign that they're starting to outage this nap time. If you're having to wake them up so that you can keep bedtime on track, that's another good sign. When they're napping and then bedtime takes an hour, 2 hours, they're not falling asleep until 9 or 10, they're pushing back, they're running out of their room, that's a great sign that, maybe you just start reducing a nap. Maybe they're taking a 2.5 hour nap, and maybe you reduce it to 2 hours, and then maybe you reduce it another half an hour and make adjustments to see if that helps with bedtime being less of a struggle. Another good sign that they're ready to drop a nap is when they're waking up happy and rested in the morning, that they're making it all the way to bedtime without wild tantrums and pushing back in the afternoon, early evening. We know at this age we're going to have tantrums and pushing back and power struggles no matter what, but I do notice it from around the time that your child would be waking up from that nap until close to dinner time is really when we see that pushback. And then what happens with older children, or all children, is that if they're overtired, they have that burst of adrenaline, right? So it's that fight or flight where they're bouncing off the walls. They're literally hitting the walls because they can't control their bodies. And so it's really that afternoon, early evening that we see this if they're not quite ready for that nap. So you can offer that earlier bedtime. You can continue to offer those naps and make those adjustments. What I do like to do, even after children aren't napping when they've aged out of it, is offer quiet time. I think quiet time is really important for not only children, but for the caregivers, for the moms, if we're with them all day long, for us just to have a moment to ourselves. So quiet time, while it's important to them, I think it's more important to us. So even offering 30 minutes or 60 minutes or kind of working up to a set amount of nap time can be important. It's really still good and beneficial for children to have that downtime, to relax their bodies and minds, to sit and learn how to play independently. One thing I like to do is have a basket of toys at nap time that only comes out at nap time or quiet time, right? And the child can play with it in their room. You can refresh those toys every week or so with toys you already have in your house, right? But you're changing up what's in the basket so it stays fresh and fun for your child, and it keeps them entertained for 20, 30 minutes that they can stay and be in their room quietly by themselves. Offer them, leave the light on slightly and let them read books. Let them pick out books ahead of time, or if they have free range to books. podcasts and audiobooks. There's so many good ones right now that are specifically designed to help children relax and meditate and be calm and fall asleep. So if you're working through a sleep regression, those are great things to start offering too. And then there's Tony boxes. We have that. It's a little speaker, and my son has these little figurines that he puts on there, and it's a great tool instead of having screen time, right? That your child can listen to these stories, you can make your own stories. It keeps them entertained, right? You can turn on a 30-minute one and know that they can make it to the end of that Tony during this quiet time. If all else fails, that earlier bedtime. So even if your child is transitioning out of the nap, or if they haven't napped, they're on nap strike, what you can do is offer an earlier bedtime. And just because you offer that earlier bedtime doesn't mean that your child's now going to wake up at 4 a.m. and start their day. But what happens is it just adds more sleep to their overall nighttime sleep. An overtired child has a harder time settling and falling asleep, is more likely to have wake-ups over the middle of the night, and is more likely to have early morning wake-ups. So early morning wake-up, the number one cause of the early morning wake-ups is schedule in an overtired child. So offering that earlier bedtime can be really helpful to make up for some sleep. So that's where we're going to talk about the early morning wake-up. So the most common reason I shared was being overtired. So that's where we offer an earlier bedtime. And I usually say, kind of generally speaking, the earliest I like to ever offer bedtime is 6 o'clock, depending on the age, right? But offering bedtime maybe an hour earlier if your toddler skipped a nap or is on nap strike. Undertired too. So is it taking your child a long time to fall asleep because they haven't had a big enough awake window? Have they only been awake for 3 or 4 hours and they need 5 to 6 hours? So reducing that wake window and adjusting their schedule and their sleep environment. So, is somebody in the house waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, the alarm's going off, and then there's noise in the house, and your child's waking up shortly after that? That's where maybe you want to introduce a sound machine, either in the hallway or your child's room, to help drown out some of that noise so that it's not waking them up. Is the sun shining into their room? Is there a street light that's really bright in their room? Adding blackout curtains to keep that room a little bit darker. Offering a nightlight if your child is talking about being scared in the middle of the night, or they're getting up to use the bathroom and you're having to go with them because they can't see. So I really like to wait to offer a nightlight until your child is actually expressing to you that they might want it or that they're scared, instead of saying, "Oh, are you scared? Do you want the light on?" And then we create this, "Oh yeah, you're right, I am scared. That's why I'm waking up." So waiting until they're really ready for it. I say usually between 2 and 3 is a good time to introduce that light. And keeping a nightlight that's amber, that's red, that's yellow, those hues are best for promoting sleep, and keeping it really dim. So I was just talking to you about the hatch light is one that I really like, that you can change the settings, you can change all the colors. We have ours at 1%, so we keep it really low and dim. And then in the morning, it comes on at green, and I keep the sound the same. I keep the light level at 1%, so if my son still is sleeping, it doesn't actually wake him up, but once he wakes up, he looks at the light and says, "Oh yeah, that's right, I can get up now." And it's something he's had since he's a baby and he grew into. So I think it's a really good investment. You can buy them used online, you can buy them at Target. I think they're like $75. But it's really great because it's a sound machine, an okay to wake light, and a night light all in one, and it really grows with your child and your needs. So sleep promoting tips, and this is really for all ages, right? So even if you don't have a toddler, some of these things are really important for you to follow yourself, especially after this time change with the weather changing and maybe waking up in the morning and feeling groggy and still tired. A lot of that has to do with the natural sunlight. The natural sunlight, especially in the morning, is something that really helps to regulate our bodies and promote sleep. So especially that first 10, 20, 30 minutes of the day, if you can get outside and let that sunlight touch your skin, that can actually help your overall nighttime sleep too. So this is great during time changes, during traveling, during jet lag. And if you're creating a new schedule for your child, just trying to get outside and get that natural sunlight every day. If your child is still taking a nap, it's really important to have this sunlight be before their nap. so that it's starting off the day right. A consistent morning and nap wake time. So if some days your child is waking up at 7 and some days you've had a rough night, so you're letting them sleep until 8 or 9 to try to make up that sleep, it might not seem like it's like too drastic, but that's a really big drastic change for a child to have such different wake ups every day. So keeping the wake up time pretty consistent. I like to say within like 15 or 20 minutes every day. If you notice that most days it's 7 o'clock and then every once in a while it's much later or after hard nights, I would say, start waking them at 7 every morning. Or just start making noise in the house. Open up their door. If you have a sound machine on, turn it off so that it's not helping and encouraging them to sleep when they shouldn't be. Encourage new skills that they're working on. So just like we talked about the sleep regressions, usually with learning new milestones and learning new things, going to a new school, starting, a new daycare or a new nanny, things like that can all disrupt sleep. So making sure that you're allowing time to adjust for it, that you're still being realistic with your expectations, letting your child know their new care provider, letting your child work on fine motor skills, all of those things during the day and leading up to bedtime. So if they're working on mastering something, have that be part of their bedtime routine so it's really fresh on their mind at bedtime so they're not waking up wanting to practice those skills. Really working on those age-appropriate awake windows. So it can be hard. My son was 5 in kindergarten and still napping. They still had like a little quiet time, and he would be the one kid that fell asleep every day, which we'll talk about later. Like, I now know why he was falling asleep, but it made it really hard for him to have a regular bedtime. Bedtime was creeping up on 9, 10 o'clock at night because he was getting even 20 or 30 minutes of sleep during the day that he didn't need. So it tricked his body into thinking he had this full, robust nap, and now he needs all this awake time again. So really looking at those awake windows and really from the newborn age until the toddler years, it's so drastic from a baby being able to stay awake for 40, 60 minutes and then needing another nap, and now up to toddlers who need 5 hours of awake time before they actually need that nap. And now maybe their nap used to be 3 hours and you need to start adjusting it lower and lower every couple of days to help with that bedtime. Consistent bedtime routines can be really helpful too. So even keeping things in the same order, this is the same for us adults too. If you have a nice warm bath and the warm water helps to lower our core body temperature, if we read the same book every night to our kids, right? For younger children who you can read the same 3 books, or you can have the last book be that same book that they know, okay, now it's bedtime. Saying prayers in the same order, putting pajamas on, keeping things in that same order can be, not so fun for us, but for our children, it lets them know that the next step of sleep is near. Waiting to turn those sound machines on until right before you put your child in bed so that that's not like putting them over the edge of wanting to fall asleep when it's not quite time yet. So sleep parasomnias. So parasomnias refers to the behaviors experienced prior to falling asleep, while falling asleep, during the arousal period of a light sleep cycle, and wakefulness. These behaviors are really different and can vary from one child to the next. But basically, the overview of them is sleepwalking, sleep talking, night terrors. So these all start to happen in the toddler years, right? And sleepwalking, while it can be scary if your child is trying to get out the front door, if they're trying to get into mischief in the house, there's definitely ways that you can help them. You can close their door at night. You can put up a baby gate, put extra security in the house, at the front door, or there's toddler alarms that you can put on their doorknob. So if they go to open up their doorknob, you get an alert, or there's a siren on the door to wake you up to go to your child. But sleepwalking is actually really common, and it starts between 4 and 8 years old, and usually children outgrow it. You might even hear that like your child is starting to sleepwalk, and your mom tells you, oh yeah, you sleptwalk too, and I sleptwalk, and you hear that it's actually really common. Usually children outgrow it, and sleepwalking on its own isn't generally a red flag that there's something else bigger going on, but making sure that your child is safe and secure in their room, that their dresser is secured to the wall, the bookcase is secured to the wall, they can't get into anything in the house. So sleep talking, very similar. The most common age is 2 to 12, and again, usually outgrown. Children and babies can and are really loud sleepers too. So sometimes my son will call out for me in the middle of the night, and by the time I run to his room, he's like, I look at him, he's fast asleep. I'm like, I thought I heard him, right? And they can talk in their sleep without there being any other issues going on. And usually us going into them too soon can disrupt them. So if they're talking in their sleep because they're in a light state of sleep and they're just kind of groggy and we go in there and turn their lights on and check on them, then we're actually waking them up more. So really pausing before we run to them can be helpful too. And night terrors. So night terrors and nightmares are really commonly confused. They're both really scary as a parent to watch your child have to go through. The difference between night terrors and nightmares are that night terrors usually happen in the first part of the night, whereas nightmares usually happen in the second part of the night. Nightmares, your child usually wakes up more and tells you, I had a dream about monsters, or the lizards were running after me, and they can share with you what's going on. Or they might even remember it in the morning. They might remember that they had the dream, but not what it was, but they remember that it's scary. Usually you can hug them, you can let them know that everything's okay, and you can get them back to sleep pretty easily. Whereas night terrors happen in that first part of the night, your child might have glazed over eyes. They might sort of feel like they're just like this little zombie. They're screaming, they might be trembling. They might be thrashing their body when you're trying to hold them and secure them. They might be fighting you off rather than being comforted by you. So one of the most important things here is that you're not actually trying to wake your child up from this night terror, but you're just trying to help keep them safe and comfortable and get them back to sleep as quickly as possible, keeping the lights off or keeping them low, using calming voices to get them back to sleep. Usually, same thing. On their own, it's not usually something to be worried about. There are things that can contribute to night terrors, and that can be, foods that are highly processed or high in sugar. It could be if your child is fighting off a fever or, in the middle of a sickness or just coming out of it. It could be also that your child is overtired and they're struggling to connect those sleep cycles early into the night. So something that I like to use here, if there's nothing else medically going on, is called wake to sleep, where you would return to your child. And usually the thing about night terrors is that they happen at a regular time. So they don't necessarily happen every night, but when they happen, you notice, oh, it's 10 o'clock again. My child's having a night terror again. So what you want to do is go into their room about 20 minutes before they're occurring and ever so slightly almost wake your child. So you're keeping the lights off, you're keeping it really quiet, but you go into them, maybe re-tuck them in, maybe touching their chest or their tummy. If they still have a passy, tugging on the passy, just to help them ever so slightly almost wake up and then connect into the next sleep cycle. And what that can do is just disrupt their sleep patterns enough that they actually bypass that night terror completely. So like I said, if there's nothing else going on, nothing medically happening, that can be a really great tool just to help them get through that night terror. I have a little video here for you, and then I'm going to go into more detail about it too.
How we diagnosed my son's sleep apnea. Signs for him included poor sleep and mood upon waking, night terrors and sleepwalking, teeth grinding, snoring, loud breathing, and pauses in breathing. I reached out to his pediatrician, scheduled a sleep study, and met with a head and neck specialist. After he was diagnosed with moderate obstructed sleep apnea, we were given several options for treatment. That included surgery, CPAP machine, medications, palate expansion, and watchful waiting. Ultimately, we moved forward with surgery after exhausting every other alternative. What was most important for me was to treat my son, help his breathing, his sleep, and his overall health. I advocated for my child, demanded appointments with specialists, and got multiple professional opinions. Important reminder to parents, we are the experts of our children. If you are concerned about anything, consult with their pediatrician and advocate for them.
So it actually started exactly this time last year. I almost had to cancel coming here, and I had to record different slides in case I couldn't make it because my son was really sick with RSV. And we had been to the urgent care, and he was really sick. And it was the fourth time he had been sick since the start of school. And like he just couldn't catch a break. Every time every Thursday, right, he would get sick again. And it was really hard because he had been a really healthy child. He had slept through the night since he was a baby. We never had issues, right? I was always on top of sleep. And he was just sick. And he had a regular dentist appointment, and his dentist was in there, and he goes, wow, your son must be a really bad sleeper. And I was like, no, how dare you? He's a great sleeper. And he said, I've never seen teeth grinding so bad at this early age. You know, teeth grinding can be common, but to see it this bad, I would think that he has something else going on. So all of a sudden, that started everything. His snoring started. We could hear him out in the living room at night after he went to bed snoring, even when he had recovered from being sick. The night terrors happened. The wake to sleep wasn't helping. Even after I did the wake to sleep, an hour later, he would have these night terrors. He was needing to get up and go to the bathroom overnight. So I actually potty trained him when he was still in the crib, and he was fine going all night long, no accidents, to waking up sometimes 5-6 times a night to go to the bathroom. And not just like an excuse of I have to go to the bathroom, but he would actually go to the bathroom every time he woke up. Tantrums in the middle of the night, fighting me, just thrashing and unhappy, waking up grumpy and irritable, and he just wasn't my happy child anymore. So we went to the doctor. She was hesitant about doing a sleep study because it had kind of come out of the blue. So she pushed back a lot, and we did all these other tests and, watching and seeing what was helping. So I went back again and again, and I demanded a sleep study. We went and did an overnight sleep study where really they're checking, the blood oxygen, the carbon dioxide, his heart rate, how many times he's waking up in the middle of the night, how many times he stopped breathing in the middle of the night. And we found out that he had obstructed sleep apnea. So for me, it was really hard because I was like, wait a second, I'm a sleep coach. This is what I do. We haven't slept now for 9 months. I hadn't slept through the night in 9 months. And I felt really embarrassed and ashamed about it. Who am I preaching to everybody that they need sleep and the value of it and helping these people to get their sleep? And then at the end of the time working together, they're like, yay, we're sleeping. And I'm sitting there well, I'm not, right? And so it was really hard for me. I went into a shell. I stopped reaching out to friends and family. I stopped going to events. I was just so exhausted, and I couldn't really see the other side of it. I took him for 3 more professional opinions because I felt like I couldn't make a rational decision on anything. And this was a really big choice, whether we were going to have surgery and what we were going to do. Ultimately, we moved forward with surgery. So that was getting his tonsils and his adenoids removed. And that night, he started sleeping through the night again. And we're supposed to wake him every 3 to 4 hours to get him to take his medicine. And we couldn't even get him to take his medicine because he was just sleeping so soundly. And immediately, my happy boy was back. I started sleeping again a couple weeks later. It took me a while for my body to get back on track. But I felt like the big picture, getting him the help that he needed. He has grown 2.5 inches since July. He's gained 6 pounds. He's riding his bike. He's reading. All of these things that he would give us pushback. We would sit and try to get him to read, and he would just start screaming and having tantrums. And seeing that sleep was the thing that he needed to help his body, to help his mind, to encourage him, that everything that he could do. And for me to now be able to help clients and even be able to see other red flags with health, right? There might have been some things that I would have thought I can help you. And now I definitely refer out a lot more and have other pediatric sleep coaches that specialize in sleep disorders, or sending people to the doctor more often before I'm willing to just start with them, because I feel like our children need to be looked at by a specialist and make sure that there's not anything else going on and that it's not just that we can sleep train, right? And I share this with you because it, it changed our life, not having sleep and then having sleep again, and really learning to advocate for my child. When I felt like something wasn't right, advocating for him and asking more professionals and asking for more help. And it was really hard for me to ask for help because I'm the one that's always helping everyone else. So it was a really big learning experience for me too. So consistency. This is my final slide here that I want to share with you just how important consistency is with the order of bedtime, with keeping times the same every day, with having that nighttime routine. Even if your child's still napping at any age as a toddler, making sure that you have a little bit of a routine for them to follow during the day so their bodies can be prepared and ready for sleep. I really like to live by the 80-20 rule of 80% of the time we're at home, we're sleeping on a schedule, nap time, sleep time is offered in your child's own bed, in their crib, and then 80% of the time we're living our life, right? We're out to dinner late, so we bring pajamas in the car and get changed and fall asleep in the car and transfer your child in. But really the important part of this is that the majority of the time you're focused on a routine. Children thrive and love routines, and them knowing what's coming next is really helpful. And the other 20% of the time, we don't stress about sleep. We go on vacation, we enjoy our family time, and we don't let sleep take over and rule everything that we're doing. So I do offer consultation calls, free calls. Sometimes during this call, we find out that there's like this little issue that you can adjust with your child's sleep, and that's all you needed was just talking through to somebody. I was talking to a mom earlier, and I was sharing with her ways that, she can get her child to stay in bed happily, and I just reminded her of a few things I talked about last year, and she's like, oh, that's right. Yeah, that's all I needed to hear, those reminders about bedtime to be able to enforce that again. I work one-on-one with clients too. I have 30 and 60-minute phone calls all the way up to working together for 2 weeks at a time with really like one-on-one sleep coaching. And then I also wanted to share that this community has a new future sleep coach. Kim is actually going through her certification right now, and she's just about ready for volunteer sleep clients. So I shared with her that I'd love to be her mentor and help her working through new clients, but definitely reach out to her too if you have any sleep issues or if you want to be one of her volunteers that she's going to need for the certification program. But she's amazing, and just already messaging with her and talking to her right now. She's so knowledgeable about sleep, and she's been through it with her daughter, and really she has the hands-on experience already. So I think you guys are really lucky to have her in your community, that you can go to her and ask questions and support her through this too. Yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
Heidi, is it okay I ask you one question?
Oh yes, questions, yes.
I have 5 minutes. I just saw that we have 5 minutes. So I think my challenge is when my second one comes,
Yes.
nap time never happened.